This is the last in my series on Jesus, the reason for the season. It's been a strange year in the sense that I can't believe it's the last Sunday of the year. It's gone, hasn't it? 2025. And, but yeah, December seems like it lasted about 8 weeks. So I can't even remember the first Sunday of December we had communion and I spoke about Jesus when he came to serve. I can't remember anything about the meeting. That's bad, isn't it? I know we had communion and I know I preached that Jesus is the one who served. And then on the second week, which was only 2 weeks ago, let's do lunch. Brilliant day, wasn't it? Just 2 weeks ago, Jesus came to make us family. And then on the carol service, which was a week ago today, he came as the Prince of Peace. And on Christmas Day, for those who came, I shared about that he came as Messiah. But my basic theme there was he gives us a choice. So, excellent. I'm going to talk about Jesus, the one who transforms. So I want you to be open on this last Sunday for God to challenge us, because that's why we've had testimonies, because he comes to give us a story. Okay. John chapter 2, verse 1. The wedding at Cana of Galilee. On the third day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. And both Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding. When the wine ran out, the mother of Jesus said to Jesus, "They've got no wine, they have no wine." And Jesus said to her, now it's not disrespectful this, but it sounds it. Jesus said to his mum, now if I had said this to my mum, I would have just been battered, but anyway. And Jesus said to her, "Woman," whoa, okay, you got to understand the context, but never mind. "Woman, what does this have to do with us? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Whatever he says, do it." Mary, brilliant. Catalyst for the first miracle. Now, there were 6 stone water pots set there for the Jewish custom of purification, containing 20 or 30 gallons each. Jesus said to them, "Fill the water pots with water." So they filled them to the brim. And he said to them, "Draw some out and take it to the head waiter," or the steward. So they took it to him. When the head waiter tasted the water, which had become wine, and did not know where it had come from, but the servants who drew the water knew, the head waiter called the bridegroom and said to him, "Every man serves the good wine first, but when the people have drunk freely, then he brings out the poorer wine. But you have kept the good wine until now." This beginning of his signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee, and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. After this, he went down to Capernaum, he and his mothers and his brothers and his disciples, and they stayed there a few days. I want to talk about the God who transforms. And as I go through this, this might be the most important message you've ever heard. For some of us, it's going to be an encouragement. So water into wine. What a miracle. It's a miracle of prompting. I remember we had a midweek meeting with a visiting preacher, showed a video of this, and somebody brought up the point from the congregation, how a mother's influence works. Not always, but a mother's influence. And I'm sure you mums out there know sometimes you've got to prompt people. You've got to prompt your sons and daughters to do the right thing. Well, this miracle is a miracle of prompting. It's Mary saying to Jesus, "They've got no wine." And Jesus says, "Mum, what's that got to do with me? It's not the right time." Do whatever he says. She knew that he was going to move. Because we don't get all the story. They didn't go to this wedding, and there's only one thing that Mary said to Jesus, but enough for us to know. It's a miracle of grace. Grace means unmerited favour. This is grace. Jesus didn't owe this couple the best wine. You don't go to a wedding and somebody says, "Right, we've got a free beer on, Steve, and you're paying." Now, if I went to somebody's wedding, and this will never happen, and I said, "The drinks are on me," okay, that's grace. It's a miracle of grace. And love, it's a miracle of love and a miracle of blessing and a miracle of need. I've mentioned this before, but if this couple who got married had run out of wine, that's the one thing that people would have remembered. How was such a body's wedding? Oh, have you not heard? Can you imagine going to a buffet? Half an hour into it, the food's run out. And you'd be saying, "Well, it's a great wedding service. How was the do it now?" It was all right. But the DJ didn't turn up. The food ran out. Or the bar didn't have any drinks. And so you look at this, and it is you can ask me the question, do I believe this actually happened? Yes, I do. That Jesus, the Son of God, who's the creator, all things are held together for him, he accelerated the process of water being turned into wine. So I believe this happened. But the water into wine is a great transformation. But what we've heard today is people's testimonies, the short testimonies. I appreciate those you've shared. And it's been difficult for some to share. But you know, Jesus not only came to serve, not only came to be Messiah, not only to come to create family, not only came to be the Prince of Peace, he came to transform our lives. Thomas the Doubter, unfair nickname to be honest, he's a great man. He became an apostle to India. Two of my favourite guys, James and John, two guys, disciples of Jesus Christ, very ambitious. So ambitious, they sent the mum to Jesus once. Said, Mum, we want to have the top positions in the kingdom. Have a word with Jesus, will you? I mean, sending him up, that's buttering him up, isn't it? So in the Bible, I'm not making these stories up. And they had a nickname, the Sons of Thunder. They were hotheads. And if you know your scriptures, they were walking down one day and this village said, we don't want Jesus preaching here. And James and John didn't say, may the Lord bless you, his peace be upon you. They said, Jesus, let's burn them alive. That's what they said. Get fire down, call fire, you've got the power, let's blast these people. James becomes the first martyr of the disciples, of the apostles, and John becomes known as the apostle of love, the son of thunder to the apostle of love. Why? Because he got transformed. But who's the best story, I think, in scripture? It's got to be Peter, hasn't it? And Jesus comes up to this guy Peter, and you don't need to understand Hebrew, you don't need to understand Greek to see the picture. But Jesus changes his name. And I think I've had an aunt who's changed the name, and maybe somebody else, and we once met a Christian who saved the name, changed the name. The surname became Lazarus. That gave me a clue they weren't born with that name. And it was quite interesting. But they came out of one of these sects, you know, where they have a guru who drives around in the purple Rolls Royce and they all live together, hippies, and they all get ripped off and it's all not so great. But anyway, he's got saved and changed the name. Well, Jesus says to Peter, so simple, even if the kids, I know there's no Sunday school, back on next week, kids. He gives a picture, he says, you're a reed. Now you're becoming a rock. That's it. He says, your name means reed, blown about in the wind, blown about. But you know what? I'm changing your name to rock, to Peter. Peter means, Petra means rock. And Jesus transforms him. Through faith in Jesus, what Jesus has to say. I just want to make a few points here. It's what Jesus speaks. Jesus speaks, to what he will become. And it doesn't always happen at once. But Peter has got three great aspects about him when he becomes the rock. Number one, he gives a statement about who Jesus is. And number two, he gives a statement about what the church is. Fantastic. Statement number one, who do people say that I am? Blah, 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 blah. Who do you say that I am? Peter, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus says that statement is so incredible, the church will be built on it. The rock. Then Peter gets the revelation that the Gentiles are not unclean. I'm glad about that. If God accepts somebody, we accept them. And that's a great revelation. But in the middle of that, Peter preaches the first sermon in the church. Now, we're not keeping tally of scores, okay? But my record, if we were, of salvations in a preaching setting is 2, okay? And I'm really chuffed about that because it's for God's glory, isn't it? But you know, Peter on his first one, he got 3,000. I'm thinking, he's a rock, isn't he? Jesus, Gentiles, in the middle he preaches 3,000 saved. I don't think heaven works like this, but if there's all categories for getting your reward, and Peter's just in front of me, it's reward for salvations at preaching, I'm slipping back a few pair of laces. Great guy. The reed becomes a rock. But it doesn't always happen at once. And again, I don't have time to go into too much detail. Peter gets these great revelations, but he falls backwards. He's not always the rock. He becomes the reed again. Whoa, that doesn't make sense, Steve. Well, in a moment. Because he now realizes I can have a meal with Gentiles, but then because he feels peer pressure, he says, I'm not eating with them anymore. And he falls back, and Paul has to rebuke him for what he's done. This is reality, folks. You see, we understand salvation, and it's very important this morning that if you've not started this Christian journey, there's no better Sunday than the Sunday you sat in hearing this message. Enter 2026 knowing you've given your life to Jesus Christ. But I was brought up that you make a decision, that you trust in Jesus, you commit your life to him, and I am saved. And we were left at that. I wish I'd had this teaching then. It's not the full picture. The full picture, as many preachers quote in the Bible, I was saved at 24 years of age. But I'm also being saved bit by bit. And also, in a sense, I will be saved when I get to heaven. Those three aspects are in the scripture. But it's the same with transformation. You see, when I became a Christian, and if you don't understand everything I'm saying, that's fine. Questions are fine to be asked afterwards. But when I became a Christian, I was transformed, and I was a new creation. But you know what? Still said things I shouldn't say. Still did things I shouldn't do. And I still thought things and etc. after that. But I was a new creation. I was transformed. And yet, I'm being transformed. Because Val said, God did something in their life. This negative person, a little bit critical of what church is doing, a little critical of situations, negative. All of a sudden, she finds she's positive. Why? Because when Val got saved, she was transformed into a new creation. So her faith looks back at that. But she's also a new area. If you're a Christian, you're being transformed. That's called sanctification. We're on a journey. So when the reed becomes a rock, it's kind of, it happened when he first said, Jesus said it, but then it's got to be worked out. And then ultimately, I will be transformed. That's glorification when we get a resurrected body. And the point I'm saying is this: God's not finished with you yet. And if you're a Christian and you think you've peaked and you maxed out and you're the maximum of where you are in your Christian life, you better be a bit worried, because that's it. No. I want to get deeper, don't you? I want to get more transformed. I want, there's certain things which are clear we want to get rid of. But I want, when you can't perceive it. But all of a sudden, somebody meets you 3 years later and says, hey, what's happened to you? I don't know. Had something happened? Yes, because I was transformed. I'm being transformed. And I will be transformed at the resurrection of the dead. And God wants to do that with each and every one of us. So if you haven't started the journey, today's the day to start. So what do I do? If I'm not sure, speak to me immediately after the service. Come with me, come and talk to me, and I'll explain in more detail. But if you have started that journey, and maybe you're 2 steps behind where you should be, don't beat yourself up this morning, but say, Lord, I want to get back on the journey, because I want to be transformed. And if you're in a good place, and if you're in a good place, without being a big head, God's doing something, you're really happy, don't be satisfied with it. Say, Lord, more. And let's believe for the future. So we go back to water into wine, which is back to my message. Isn't it interesting? The first thing Jesus transformed wasn't a person, but a situation. The first miracle wasn't a leper being cleansed, wasn't some dead people coming out of the grave, and wasn't 3,000 getting saved on a sermon, or 5,000 having a miraculous meal. The first miracle was water into wine. And I've got 3 thoughts for you. This is really where I'm coming to. First of all, I want to encourage you. The water, this was the object of the miracle. The water. Now I'm spiritualizing this, but in your life, that represents you. Now water is important. Water is necessary. It's the one thing you need in life, isn't it? Water. You've got to have water. It's so vital. But Jesus changed it into something of greater worth. You see, water sustains, we understand that, but wine represents blessing, doesn't it? An abundant life. I mean, if you went to a wedding and all they served was water, it'd be a bit crummy, wouldn't it? And even if you're teetotal, you'd still like some fruit juice. When I was growing up, fizzy pop was like king. And then cordial was second level. You know what the king of cordial pop in the Gaskell household was Vimto. You know, when my mum got Vimto, it was like, come on, result. She got Lucasade, you were ill. But, you know, Vimto, you needed. And then you'd have orange squash. You'd get this orange squash. And it was just like orange-coloured water. But I tell you what, if you had a choice between that and a cup of water, glass of water at the top, you'd go in for this. Seriously. When we're talking about transformation, which I've touched on with James and John and Peter, the primary purpose is you. Daddy wants to transform you, but please don't stay there. And I hope I'm not stretching the point too much. What or who is transformed at this wedding? Number one, the water itself. Who's transformed when you touch, Christ comes into your life? You're transformed. But number two, it's the people around the situation. And here's something interesting. So the water itself changed, the people around. Did you know the master of the banquet was ignorant? Did you read the story? He didn't know the water had been turned into wine, just thought it was cracking wine. He's ignorant, and yet he's blessed. I want to encourage you this morning, that can be the same about people around us. You can be at work, and nobody knows you're a Christian, but they're getting blessed and they don't realise it. This banquet master comes in, oh, best wine ever, totally oblivious to the transformation that's happened. Why? Because when you get transformed, you don't have to go and preach to everybody around you. You just, by the nature of you being transformed, become a better son, and a better daughter, and a better mum, and dad, and work colleague, and always should be. And other people are recipients of our transformation. So don't just see, I've got to change, it's for me, it is for you, but those around you. Also the servants who Jesus involved in this first miracle, they were blessed by this. I mean, come on, go and get some water out of there. How did it happen? I don't know, but he got the water out, walking over, it's gone to wine. Whoa, and I was carrying it. Do you know that Jesus guy who did this first miracle? He didn't bring the water, I did. He did the miracle, but I was the carrier. Blessings to the transformation. And who else is blessed? The bridegroom. The bridegroom gets praised for a miracle of Jesus on the water, and the bridegroom hadn't a clue who'd done it, I don't think, or even if he did, it was nothing to do with the bridegroom, was it? Listen, transformation isn't just about you, the water. It's about your friends and your family and your situation and our community and the people around you. If you allow yourself to be transformed in 2026, step to step, you'll change and you'll impact other people, even if they don't know you're a Christian. But who else got changed? So I want to narrow it down now to Ramsbottom Community Church. The disciples. How do you know, Steve? Because when John started writing his gospel, and he wrote, in the beginning was the Word, chapter 1, verse 1, this great theological point, then he said, right, I'm going to tell you about the first miracle. Wow, you should have been there. Cana of Galilee. Verse 11 of John 2. There's this beginning of his signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. The water was transformed, wasn't it? The people in the wedding had benefits of the transformation, and the Christians, if we want to use that term, within the church were transformed. And even though Jesus did the unexpected, and even though it wasn't at the right time, trust me, I mean, Jesus, this is the first miracle, he's got these 12 guys, training them up, speaking about kingdom principles, telling them, I'm reading into this, but this is what happened. We're going to do a missions trip. We're going to go to Samaria. We're going to go here. I'll do the miracles. You'll be with me. God will meet our provision. This is the teaching. And then eventually, guys, I'm going to release you 2 by 2. You'll see it in me first and I'll equip you. Well, even Jesus said to his mum, it's not the right time. The disciples are thinking, can't do a miracle today. We haven't gone on a missions trip. Jesus breaks in and blows their expectations away. And when he does it, it's not the right time, it's not the right place. A wedding. Wine, it's a wedding, the best wine. Jesus does it. The disciples are transformed. The disciples themselves, it says they put their trust in Christ. And here's the point as I finish. Just do a quick application. When you get transformed, the water, primarily it's you who Christ does the working. Secondly, it's those around us. But I want to declare this for 2026 for Ramsbottom Community Church. When God does a work in your life, the people in this room receive the benefits. Because you see, if you're a person who's more loving than you were before, we receive the benefits. If you're a person whose prayer life's gone up, we receive the benefits. If you come to the church and you begin to serve and God does something, other people receive the benefits. Unfortunately, somebody's not here. I wanted to use as an illustration, but she's ill. Maybe for the good, but I could give a name. She comes to this church and got saved, got baptised last January. And I was just thinking about this wonderful lady called Elaine. She got transformed. But you know what? People around her in the family, etc., got blessed by it. But then I just thought to myself when I was doing this work, and for everybody, so just Elaine, I'm just using an illustration. I'm running the youth on a Wednesday night and Elaine's helping us. Hey! The transformation just wasn't for us. It's for the disciples. And when you're on the door and you're on the music team, and when you're serving and when you're helping at Lego Church and all different things, your transformation is not just for you. It's for those around you, and it's for the church. Because I can't transform this church, only Jesus can. And you know what? He won't do it by transforming me alone. He'll do it by transforming all of us. And you're glad Jesus, 3 thoughts, never gave up on the reed who he declared to be a rock, but sometimes acted like a reed. And you're glad he didn't give up on him. And you're glad I am. Peter, you're a reed, but I'm making you a rock. What are you acting like a reed for today on your bike? No. It's all right, Peter. In fact, you're going to be so reed-like. One day you're going to say, I'll die with you, and within hours you're going to say, I never knew you. You come back to being a reed. But you're not a reed. You're a rock. You're just acting like a reed for a bit. I'll come back and I'll help you. Secondly, for every one of us, it's an ongoing development. So I want to really encourage you, if you've started on the journey, no matter how long you've been a Christian, continue to be transformed and work it out and all that I said about that. And thirdly, it's what Christ says that matters. It's what Christ does that matters. Jesus turns the water into wine. Jesus speaks the word to Peter. You read, you're becoming a rock. Jesus says you'll become an apostle of love. It's Jesus who does it. And how we respond is the key. So he transforms us. He's transforming us. And he will transform us. Have you started the journey? Why not today? Start the journey. Have you paused on the journey? Why not plug yourself back into what God's doing? Are you on the journey, but you should be further on? Don't allow the devil to beat you up. Just say, Lord, next Sunday, next December, the last Sunday of the year, I want a testimony to share, because you've changed my story in 2026. May the Lord bless us.